There's a lot going on with the players' side of the situation here that runs all of baseball, right? You have Major League Baseball, Commissioner Manfred, and all the people below him. Other side, because someone said the other day, oh, he's just the executive director. No, that is the leader of the Players Association. So the players side that makes up our sport and represents all of the players, that's the Players Association, the union, and that is Tony Clark, who is now out. So we'll start there, and then we'll get to the succession plan. So this broke yesterday. We had Ken and Evan Drellick all over the story first, saying Tony Clark's resigning. Then step two was Passan and Don Vendetta putting out from ESPN that Clark resigned after an internal investigation revealed he had an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, who had been hired by the union in 2023. That's some Jerry Springer shit right there, Kratz.
Yeah, it's not what you're looking for from the leader. And I want to reiterate what you said, like the leader of the union. He is Rob Manfred. As much as you say, Rob Manfred, he can be the puppet for the owners. Okay, that's fine. You can say whatever you think. Like, this is a huge thing that the Players Association has to figure out. And people say, well, people make mistakes. Well, it's when you're a public figure, like they have to deal with that right now, and it's a big thing.
It is a huge thing, AJ. And he is still under investigation by the feds for if he did anything shady money-wise. So there's stuff going on there, and we don't know the resolution of that yet. I think it's still ongoing. So and to my knowledge, that's why there was a group that was internally making sure everything was okay to represent the player side. And with that, they're doing their homework, and they're like, wait a second. What is this communication that's going on here? Then they speak to Tony. They notify the players and the committee there. And then the players call Tony on Monday, and they're like, what's the deal? It sounds like they essentially said, you're toast. Do you want to announce it yourself or not? And then by Tuesday morning, we find out before his first meeting that's set in camp, and he meets with all 30 teams, he's out.
Yeah, listen, this is just terrible, terrible situation. I honestly, I don't know enough about this, but from reading this, there has to be more to this, I feel like, than what we've gotten so far. And I'm sure Ken and Drellick and everyone else is digging for it a little bit. This seems like I don't know. I don't even want to get into this because this just sucks for so many. And I hate to get into people's personal life because you don't know what anyone's doing on a personal level unless you're living their life. So listen, whatever Tony did, this seems like the way for them just to get him to resign with a little bit of dignity if there's more, which I obviously hope there's not. But this just sucks, man. I hate even talking about this. It just sucks. This whole thing sucks.
So what's next for the union? Players have been meeting fast and furiously. They had a meeting yesterday, which is Tuesday. Bob Nightingale said Bruce Meyer, who was kind of the number two there, and he's the union's lead negotiator, is still going to be in that spot, even if he also becomes the interim executive director. So that was one bit of news from Bob. And there's been a lot more. Evan and Ken came out with an article saying intriguing candidates emerge as MLBPA debates successor for ousted leader Tony Clark. Names they mentioned in there included Matt Nussbaum, who's part of the general counsel, or I think is the lead general counsel there. Don Fair, who used to work with the MLBPA back in the day, and then he went to the NHL side. Daniel Murphy's on that picture. He used to be part of the PA mix there. And Andrew Miller is part of the mix. Currently, we've had him on the show. So there's some names. There could be others. It sounds like there's some dissension too, where some guys want to just get this rolling, keep the train on the tracks, go with the guy who's already there and let him go. He's going to be a part of the mix regardless. Others are like, hey, let's take some time. Let's make sure we get this right. Let's make sure we maybe talk to other candidates. You can speak to this, Kratz, because you've been part of the union. You got to get a lot of people on the same page, and they're a little busy right now with spring training, so there's a lot going on.
I mean, it's better now than during the season. Like, you don't want guys to have to worry about this during the season, but when you're part of the subcommittee, when you're part of the executive committee as a player, you're representing the 1,200 some odd players that are saying yay or nay to certain things. And I would agree. I would sit on the side of hey, let's take some time. Let's not need to name somebody in the next 48 hours. Nothing's going to happen. Nobody's attacking your city. Nobody's attacking the union. Nobody, like, this isn't like Major League Baseball time to strike because Tony's out, their executive director's out. No, there is such a structure built, such a game plan already built. Tony was really like the rallying cry guy. He was a guy that sat through the strike of 94. And so him along with some of the other older player reps, or not player reps, but representatives from the Players Association, they saw it. They saw that. And it's supposed to be there to remind guys, hey, you know what? We need to stay unified. That's where they need to find somebody. That's who they need to find. They need to find somebody who's not trying to politic their way into this role. They need to try to find somebody who has the best intentions, not somebody that's looking to get a major salary bump because they're getting this role. And I don't think that decision should be taken lightly. I think the next executive director needs to be somebody who is respected on both sides, respected by Major League Baseball, respected by the players, and respected in the avenue that this is all going to be negotiated in. Lawyers, like legal representatives, because there's a lot of things that go on that players may know what's going on, but when you have people that went to school for this stuff, that are professionals in this realm, sometimes I'm a little against the player being in this role. The executive director doesn't necessarily negotiate this CBA. He's in there, he's part of it, but just like Rob Manfred doesn't negotiate the CBA. There's other people that are doing the negotiations, so those people are still in place. To me, this needs to be something that they need to take time, and they need to get it right, because they need to make sure the union is still continues to stay galvanized as one unit and not factions of big-time superstars, mediocre players, Latin players, Japanese players, players from the South, players from the North. Like, they have to be one group, and that's the best way that the Players Association works.
I'll use a comp here too, AJ. Bud Selig was the commissioner for a long time in Major League Baseball. He owned a team. He owned the Brewers, right? And the commissioner is the person that leads the charge with the owners, right? They vote on what they want to do, then commissioner plays that out. Now it's Manfred for a while. He didn't own a team. He was a lawyer and on the fight for a long time. Then they bring him up to be the next guy. So playing to Kratz's point, it could be a former player. Doesn't have to be a former player.
No, it needs to just be the best, like Erik said, the best person for the job that can encompass all players, right? And I think there's no need to rush, but this is a bargaining year, so you got to put a little bit of maybe a fast forward on it, but not a rush. Maybe, like when you hit your remote and it goes like 1 time, 2 time, maybe put it 1.5 times instead of the 4 times where it just zooms through your show you have on your DVR, right? So there is a little bit of a rush. I don't think that because of where they're at in the bargaining, and they still have most of the team. I think when we look back on it now, they had Don Fear, then they had Michael Weiner, who was the successor for Don Fear. He obviously got sick, passed away. Horrible story. Then they hit the rush button. I feel like, who can we get in? Well, Tony Clark was there. He was a player. He knows us, right? Boom. Let's throw Tony Clark in there. Okay, Tony Clark takes over. You can make the argument how it went, good or bad. I don't know. That's not for me to argue. But now you have a situation here where you got to get it right, because it's a bargaining year, because there's going to be so much on the table with the salary cap stuff, with the international draft stuff, with all the TV rights, everything we've been talking about, we're going to talk about for the next 10 months. You got to get this one right, guys. You just have to get this one right. And whether it's a player, a lawyer, somebody off the street that we don't even know about, please, I guess we're not members of the union anymore, Kratz, because we don't play anymore. But as a former member of this union and someone whose pension and insurance relies on this, please, guys, just please get it right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's important that they continue to stay unified. I think it's important that they take their time. I'm not saying take months to do this. I'm saying take a week or two rather than a day or two. I think the fast forward button is understood and agreed upon, but I think there's also a sense that it is bigger than you. And if you have somebody that has an agenda that wants to take this job, I don't think that's the type of leader that the union wants. So, I think that subcommittee will hear from people, hear from names, and hopefully they make the best choice.
I tried to make as many phone calls as possible. I'm no Ken Rosenthal. I'm not reporting on any story. But the one consensus that I did get was that this is a good thing for all sides. Not the actual story and the implications of what came out of what Tony, was doing, but it was time, because it felt like there was a lot of distractions off the field. And clearly we're learning about some of them, but it felt like that was permeating, right? There was a lot going on, and you want someone who's super focused and who's almost like a nerd about this stuff, and it's all they do. They eat, sleep, and breathe it, and you can call them at any time and they're around, right? Isn't that often how the best GMs are? The commissioner. It is a 24/7 job. And it seemed to me like people felt as if there were distractions going on here. So they're like, we need someone who is strong, who is focused, who I can reach at any time, and who's going to get along well as best as possible with MLB. You're going to have your battles, but from a fan perspective, that's where I'm coming in here. I want games to be played. You want things to keep rolling, and you want things to get better. One of the things that I thought was the best part of the last agreement between both sides was to get a little lottery action going on. So you can't just tank. NBA is going through a massive tanking issue right now. And I think MLB and the players have done things to be able to make that better. We've seen a lot of rule changes that I think continue to improve the game. So you want someone that's just going to be able to speak the language. And I think that there was a lot cleaned up just now as far as the, streamlining all of this. Yes, they have to get a leader back in place, but if you're waiting on someone to make a final call and that person is busy with a million things going on that are off the field issues, right? You've got a federal investigation. You've got the sister-in-law situation going on here, which we covered earlier in the show. That's not good. You're busy, and you're busy for the wrong reasons. It's true. We say whatever we want on this show, AJ, and that part is true. I got told this by multiple people that are in different worlds, right? Some more on the MLB side, some more on the player side, and they were like, I'll tell you this, I think everybody would agree it's going to be a good thing. It'll help get someone who's in there who's focused.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's hope. That's all we can do is hope, Scott.